Lord, may the meditation of my heart, the words of my mouth be pleasing and acceptable to you. Lord, our strength and our redeemer. Please be. Today we hear a familiar story in the Gospel. Story about the Good Samaritan. Everyone knows about the Good Samaritan. Doesn't matter if you go to church or not, right? It's just part of our common lexicon. The Good Samaritan. Are you a Good Samaritan? In fact, most states have Good Samaritan laws, right? If you're trying to help someone, you can't be sued and harmed for trying to help. Story about the outside love of a stranger. Person who should be the one who walked by doesn't. And the story of people who should pay attention. I'd like to highlight just one thing that I think is often overlooked in it. First, you'll notice that whenever he's talking about the story, Jesus says a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. He was going downhill Jericho. What was Jesus doing when he asks this, when he tells the story? In Luke chapter 10, is right after Transfiguration, where he says to his disciples, now turn and go to Jerusalem. Where was he at when he said this? Right outside of Jericho. So there's an inverse going on here. The story is geographically reminding us that Jesus is talking about people coming from the heights of God, right? From Jerusalem, going down to the city of Jericho. And Jesus is starting in Jericho and going up. Jesus is on his way. The reformers in the 1500s spoke about the alien love of God, the love from the outside. Now, this isn't the aliens that built the pyramids in Egypt. That's on the History Channel. That's a different story. No, we're talking about the alien love of God, the love that comes from the outside. The one I grew up not far away from Uniontown, Pennsylvania. The town's name was changed after Ulysses S. Grant walked through its streets during the Civil War. And in the early 1900s, at St. Peter's Episcopal Church, right downtown in Uniontown, there was a famous, soon-to-be famous, young man who was an actor, who served for 3 years while his family moved through, served congregation. That man's name was George. And after World War II, after World War I, you're all reminded that whenever someone wins a victory, there are ways of doing things that help, and there are ways of doing things that. And after World War I, the victors said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make the Germans pay us all the debt we owed in the. And, World War II. After World War II, the U.S. and its allies made some important. They chose not Germany, but instead they launched Marshall. I personally believe that the Marshall Plan is the greatest story of what happened when people really loved their nation. When after a war was fought, where millions upon millions died, instead of grievances that were held, enemies became allies. Cities were rebuilt. Towns were repopulated. People were given food. Rebuilding and bringing peace and order, not through punishment, but by creating a new world. Talk about Good Samaritan. Let's talk about being Good Samaritan. See, the problem with the Good Samaritan story is that we know it. We've all heard it a million times, and so it's just there. Just sit there. Oh, Samaritans. Oh, yeah, I know that one. But story that Jesus tells a lawyer, remember? One who was versatile. Lawyers back then, they didn't do estate planning in corporate, they didn't work for like oil companies. Lawyers back then, what a lawyer meant was you read the Bible more than everyone else. And by the way, everyone else read the Bible a lot because there was one book, like you had one book. You know what your math lesson was? The Bible. Do you know what science was? The Bible. Do you know what geography was? The Bible. Do you know what everything was? The Bible. That's all you had. It's the only story you got. There was no other. And so these lawyers, they really knew them better than anyone else. In all of us, they knew. So one who was versed in the law, one who knew the scriptures forward, backwards, every jot, every diddle, every verb, every vowel point, knew exactly what was going on, doesn't hear this story of a good being done. You've heard this once. You're probably going to hear it once again. I love this story from The West Wing, one of my favorite TV shows, and one of my favorite scenes in The West Wing, episode number 32. Says this. Josh, by the way, Josh is one of the political appointees of Jeb Bartlett, who will forever be my president. And he's in a trouble. He's in real trouble. And Leo, who's the secretary of state, the chief of staff, is the one who is trying to help him out. And Leo, walking down the hall of the West Wing, says, there's this guy walking down the street. When he falls into a... The walls are so steep, can't get out. And the dog is walking down, passes by, and the guy shouts up, hey, you should help me. And the doctor writes a prescription, throws it in the hole, and keeps on walks. Then a priest comes along. The guy shouts up, Father, I'm down here. Can you help me out? The priest rips the page out of the prayer book, throws it in the holes. He's walking. Then a friend, the guy says, hey, Joe, it's me. Can you help me out? Friend jumps into the hole. Exactly. And our guy asks, are you? But now we're both down in the hole. And the friend replies, yeah, but I've been down here before. And I know. Then Leo turns to Josh. Says, as long as I've got a job, you've got a job. These illustrations point to Jesus, the one who is the outside. Born of a woman, not in this world. Jesus made his way to be nailed to a cross next to robbers and said to the one who was next to him, you'll be with me today. Jesus, the one who is the law. Jesus is the one who spoke the law into existence. He is the embodiment of Israel. He is the embodiment of the law. Everything perfectly lived out only in one person. The word. And then a lawyer approached the embodiment of God, right? Approach. Jesus is the Messiah. Because if someone came up to you, you might be polite, courteous, but in your mind, you'd be saying, buddy, I'm the one, right? I'm the whole thing. I do this perfect. What do you think you're talking to you? Right? That's, if we were in this story and that lawyer came to us, that's what would be going on in the back of our mind. You don't know anything. I've been doing this forever. Jesus isn't you and me. Jesus loves in a way that you and I struggle to think. Jesus, like Garrett Keillor, explores the question of who is my neighbor and who isn't. and who we should love and care for. The question when he asks, who's my neighbor? Man doesn't see it. That we are neighbors, friends, and enemies alike. We are neighbors to those who we adore, to those who, just like the Samaritan, we are all neighbors to one another. So as the church, as the people of God in the world, our job is to look those out and to show them love and compassion, like the man who walks by, like the Samaritan who walks by, the man. How is it that you and I can show for those, well, we really don't want to? How can we give to someone who maybe you think, maybe they should clean up their lives with? What is it that's inside that reminds us the heart of the belovedness? It reminds us once and again that he died in light of the he fit be made fun of. Name of the Father, the Son,